There we go. All right, here we are back with Angelo Cataldi, Rhea Hughes. Hey guys, how are you?
Great. Awesome.
Great.
Can't wait to talk some TV, Jay.
Angelo, what's going on in your life recently?
I want to make a statement at the beginning of this podcast because the reason I did this podcast was a TV program that I said, I need to get this word out to everybody because it's spectacular. So later in this podcast, I will tell you about a show that was a better binge for me than Breaking Bad, than The Sopranos, and Cheers. It is a show very few people know about, a show that I believe Rhea Hughes has snubbed, even though it's right in her wheelhouse.
Okay.
I'm going to say right now, there will be people, not everyone, but there will be people. I am ruining the rest of 2022 because all you will want to do once you start this show is to watch it day and night. It's 100 episodes.
Oh, Jesus.
Episodes. It is 8 seasons. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm not sure it isn't the greatest TV show ever done.
Wow.
Really?
And I'll tell you about it later in the podcast. Stay tuned.
Wow. Now, if I know Angelo Cataldi, he is speaking about the Book of Boba Fett, the Star Wars TV show on Disney Plus. Am I correct?
No. I'm more
Nothing he likes
than that. I'm smart. I'm not a dummy like you, Black.
Nothing Angelo likes better than science fiction. Well, okay, I can't wait to get to that because I am super excited. 100 episodes. That's always great when you have a show that you know is going to last you for a while. So I'm looking forward to that. I wanted to start today by talking about, I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast, and he reminded me of the moment in Lost. Were you guys Lost fans before we
No, I wasn't.
But I've read a lot about it.
Okay. It was a great show up until the final season, and the last episode stunk. I know a lot of people defend it, but it was a terrible last episode. You should know how you're going to end it before you start it. Just saying so, J.J. Abrams. Anyway, during the third season, up until the third season, all of the shows had flashback episodes where they would just go into the lives of the people in the show. And in the it started to get a little repetitive. There was a famous one in the beginning of the third season called Jack's Tattoos, where it's basically like an hour on how Jack got 2 tattoos. And everybody was like, the format's getting a little old, guys. I don't know what you're going to do. Last episode of the third season, the season finale, we're in another flashback. The end of the episode, though, he walks up to someone that he met on the island. He's got a big beard on. He looks completely disheveled, and he goes, hey, we need to go back to the island. So we realized at that moment, it's a flash forward. No one saw it coming. There was no spoilers. I mean, this is 2006, right? So the internet, not what it is today. And I considered it the biggest bleep moment of recent memory, just where you completely shocked. You could not believe you actually were seeing this. And I was just wondering if you guys had bleep moments. And I'm saying bleep because we don't want to get an explicit tag, although it is podcasting, you can curse. What your biggest bleep moment from your TV watching history was from any show whatsoever. So Rhea, what do you got? What's your bleep moment?
So I was thinking about this, and I just remember in 1997, we were not as evolved as we are today. And I know that was the year I started on the morning show. So when I looked up this episode, I thought, wow, I remember this because I remember listening to Angelo when I was in college and going, this guy's a Neanderthal. I've told him about this. So this is nothing I haven't told him. But it was the Ellen show. It was her sitcom that she had. And it was when she decided, it was a pretty successful, I think, sitcom. She decided to come out as gay. And it was so shocking. Like Oprah was involved, you know, people were losing their minds. The show didn't last much longer. I think it was canceled the next season. And I know Laura Dern has talked about she had trouble for almost 2 years actually getting a job. But what interested me about it, I did some reading because I wanted to go with the first thing that popped into my mind. And it was Ellen coming out as gay because she had a pretty good sitcom career probably ahead of her. And she just said, no, I want to come out. I want to be, the episode is called the puppy episode because within the production of Ellen, the director or the producer, I forget who it was so upset that they weren't introducing a love interest for Ellen on it that he goes, can't you just get her a puppy or something? And, he just wanted, and she came out and the show, and, obviously she wound up having a fairly successful talk show, but it took years and years and years. And she wound up blowing that on her own. Her own issues blew that up, but that show was very successful. But that was she wound up, I believe, being like the quote unquote Time Man of the Year, just because it was in that era. People didn't do it because they knew it would blow up their career. It did, but she got it back. So that was my aha moment.
Hey, that's a great one. Yeah.
I was it really evolved over 4 years and then culminated in its finale. It was one of my top 10 shows of all time, Dexter. And Dexter's first 4 seasons rank with any TV show I've ever seen. The 4th season, the Trinity Killer, John Lithgow, phenomenal. Yeah. And then it went into decline, steady, horrific decline. By the 7th season, by the 8th season, Dexter killed his sister. It was just going off the rails. And I said, my God, what's left to do here? And then the finale is the most reviled finale in television history. They didn't kill a serial killer. Dexter killed 100-some people on the show because he was a guy that avenged bad people, and he would kill them and he would torture them before he did it. It was great. I loved watching it. And the serial killer, he gets away and he becomes a logman in some obscure part of, he's got on a flannel shirt and he's got a growth of beard and he's like a rugged outdoorsman and that's the way they ended it. And it was awful and everybody hated it. But happy ending. They brought it back last year for an extra season and they made his son a part of it. And it was great. And it ended the way it should have ended. I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
But Rhea, it was for 10 years, it was considered the most awful ending. And they ruined it.
I got out of it before you. I only watched the first season and I loved it. It began to go off the rails for me. I don't know. I wasn't as into it as I was in the first season, but the first season for me, spectacular.
Ice Truck Killer. How great was that?
Because you want that as a person who sees people get away with murder and bad deeds. You want to see that. You don't want to see them just go to jail and they're going to get 3 meals a day and blah, blah. You want them to be as punished as they punish the people they did bad to.
You're exactly right. Yes.
And it does speak to, just the Dexter is part of the old version of the way they did TV, which is just keep it going for as many seasons as possible and let it burn out. And I think it talks about how we watch TV now that, now I think you get to the end of that 4th season, everybody goes, well, let's be done with this and do something else because we can't top it. It's great. We don't need to do another 70 episodes that people are going to hate. So good all around. Speaking of shows that are, moving along with a lot of seasons, we have season 4 coming up of Succession. I don't know if you guys are Succession fan. Sunday night when this dropped I'm not watching House of Dragon, but at the end of House of Dragon, they dropped the Succession trailer and it was immediately, my Twitter follows, all of them were like, oh my God, Succession. And it was like, to me, like when the Phantom Menace trailer dropped, because I absolutely adore Succession. I watched it. It was a minute. I tried to look for all the details I could. Are you guys Succession people or no? And if you're not, what's wrong?
I'm not. Here's what I'll tell you. I've never watched it, but I knew we were going to talk about it. So I settled down yesterday. Angelo, you will love this. I made the In-N-Out burger sauce.
And
I was making, yes. And I said, I'm going to settle down with a burger and I'm going to make it. I get the meat from my butcher. I do it all up. I do big lunches here. I settle down. I turn on Succession. I'm like, okay, it's kind of interesting. And then the character that's in the dog suit vomits all over the scene while I've taken my second bite of my burger. And I went, okay, no. And I turned it off. I finished eating. I did watch the first episode. That's not a kind of show that draws me in. I don't
Right.
like any of the people, like none of them. So it's hard for
And
me to grab onto a show if I don't like any of the characters.
Right. And
And
I
that is a common complaint about the show, that they're hateable. They're all very hateable.
Yeah.
am in 100% lockstep with Rhea. Jay, I have tried 3 times to watch Succession because my wife is addicted to it. And my
Yeah.
wife must really enjoy bad people because she married me. But I don't, right? And I need somebody to root for. And there's nobody there. I don't like the old guy. I don't like the main guy with that pussy. Apparently he's a jerk too. Jeremy something or other. I don't. I
But no,
don't-
Jeremy Strong.
we're alone on this. I know a lot of
Right.
people think the
Sure.
world of this show, and I know they're counting the days until the next season. I have no interest and no desire to ever try watching it again.
I got to tell you, Jeremy Strong, and I read that New Yorker profile, and they
Did too.
spoke. They did a lot of speaking around what his mental issues are. Like, we considered a comedy, but Jeremy has a different opinion of the show. And like, you can, if you read Hollywood speak, it's like, I can't stand this guy. I'll tell you this though, I think he's the best actor going.
Yeah.
He is the layers of stuff he's doing, because he not only has to play like bravado, but also vulnerability and also insecurity. And like, he's got 13 different layers going on at all times. He's phenomenal. But yeah, apparently a huge jerk. So,
Well, yeah,
I
you
can't
said
wait.
mental issues. People use mental issues to cover up. Sometimes people are just bad guys. And
Right.
it
Right.
seems to me that that's probably what he is.
Yeah, you know what? That's probably what my wife is talking about with her therapist regarding me right now.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
I
Jay
think
might have a lot of depression, but
Yeah.
he's also just a bad guy. So this one, I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about this week, Angelo. I don't mean to predict what our topics are on the radio, but Charles Barkley, we talked about him a lot when he was dealing with the LIV, which, by the way, I didn't realize was 54. That's LIV, the Saudi Arabian League. It's Roman numerals for 54 because they only play 54 holes. That was new to me. Didn't know that.
Okay. Didn't know it either.
Yeah, that's why they call it that. So the LIV golf tour was talking to Charles Barkley, and we had a lot of discussion about, like, would he go for a lot of money? And apparently he was just negotiating, because he signed a contract 10 years and between 100 and 200 million, depending on the escalators. So let's call it $150 million contract for Charles Barkley. First question, is he worth it? Second question, is this a smart move by Warner Brothers, who, by the way, have been cutting costs everywhere, and they just dumped a DC universe amount of money on Charles Barkley? So what are your thoughts on this?
I have the answers to both questions. No and no. It's ridiculous to pay anybody who's broadcasting a sports event. The attraction is not the person, it's the event. Is it a good game? Is it going to be exciting? I'm not going to tell you he doesn't enhance the enjoyment, because he does. He's a great personality. You know how he did it, Jack? He did it in the most extraordinary way I've ever seen a sports broadcaster do it. He just gave his honest opinion all the time. He didn't
Yeah.
sell it to somebody. He just said, I don't like this guy. I do like this guy. This guy's a jerk. This guy's lazy. And people love that. But it's not worth
Yeah.
$150 million. It's not. It'll never be.
Here's
Yeah,
where
and-
I will disagree with Angelo. Okay. He was, first of all, Charles was really smart because he negotiated in the press. He was in the
Yes,
New
he
York Post. He was doing, hey, I'm going to take a meeting, with the main guys at LIV. The reason that it works for Charles is because he is in a league that has too many games, 82 games, and
Yeah.
a lot of those players take off for load management. They know they're getting their audience to tune into pregame, halftime, post, because of the exact reason that Angelo said. Charles has zero filter. He's like Angelo. What's in his brain is coming out of his mouth. And he goes after, I mean, listen, he used to be really good friends with Michael Jordan. They're not friends anymore because he deigned to criticize Michael Jordan when he was running the Washington Wizards, I believe. So
Mhm.
in my sense, yeah, listen, ESPN cut 1 million people. And then how much money did they hand Joe Buck and Troy Aikman? That's what
Fair
these
enough,
companies
yeah.
do. But in Charles' case, I will say he brings eyeballs to games people probably wouldn't watch.
Yeah.
That
But
does make a
150
lot of
million,
sense.
though. Rhea, is it worth all that? That much money?
No, no, but
Yeah.
if they thought Liv was going to offer it to him,
Yeah.
it's worth it to them.
Good point. Good point.
And has anybody done a better rehabilitation tour than Charles Barkley over the last 30 years? Because the thing I remember about Charles was the I am not a role model commercial. And
He
the
still isn't.
yeah, no, but like the amount of hatred that he engendered in the early part of his career, just in the national media, versus the
I
fact
think I
that
can
he
give
is
you
now
a reason
beloved.
why he gets away with it, because Charles does a lot of stuff all year long where he could literally get in trouble with. He's got a persona off the field that people just love him. The stuff he
right.
does with people. There was a guy he met in a bar once, sitting in a bar waiting for an airplane. This guy was a fan. They wound up becoming friends. This guy was not anybody that anybody knew. He became friends with him. Guy passes away, lives in like the middle of nowhere. I want to say Iowa.
Right.
Middle of the funeral, like at the beginning of the funeral, Charles Barkley shows up at the guy's funeral. And they're all like,
Wow.
well, we thought he always mentioned that he knew you, but I mean, he does stuff off the court that people love him for, and so they just give him a pass. He's done stuff over the past couple of years that would cancel anyone. Charles gets a pass for it.
I'm going to say the only reason I get upset about this, I mean, you know, whether or not the economics of $15 million a year makes sense, the fact that David Zaslav, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, the new head of Warner Brothers, because this is the same company that owns HBO, owns TNT, CNN. He's been cutting corners everywhere. And it drives me nuts. He shelved a $60 million Batwoman movie that lots of people want to see because he didn't want to spend another 20 million to get it to where it needed to be. And yet Charles Barkley's getting $15 million a year to talk for 20 minutes before a game. Like the economics of how he's running that company doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that going on. Yes.
If anybody wants to understand what happens when you overpay broadcasters, just watch what's going on with Tony Romo. We got the biggest contract in the history of television at $18 million a year, and he has mailed it in ever since. You can't overpay these guys if they're going to cash in the way Tony Romo did. Tony Romo is virtually unlistenable now.
And bad news for you. Bad news. He's doing the game, Eagles-Steelers game on Sunday.
He is. Not bad news for me. I listen to WIP radio instead. I will not hear a word he utters. I can't stand him, Chris Collinsworth, and I'm getting closer to hating Troy Aikman now too.
Troy Aikman was brutal on Monday night. I'll tell you what, Joe Buck, not bad. He's still pretty good.
Not bad.
He's
Never been
good
bad.
Work ethic, that guy. Yeah.
He's very good.
All right, let's move on to Rhea's British segment / Team TV. Let's do that. So British first. What do you got for us?
Okay, so what I got, I had kind of stopped myself from watching the show for a long time. Very highly rated, 82% of Rotten Tomatoes. It's called The Murders at the White House. And the reason I didn't watch it is because it's a true story, based on a true story. You know, I love those. On HBO Max. And I'm sorry, on HBO Max, because it involved a massacre of a family at a farm. And it was the mother, father, their adult daughter, Sheila, and her twin boys who are only 6. And I have a lot of tough time watching anything that involves children. You know, once you have children, animals, you know how I feel about it. But it kept popping up on, telling me to watch it because of what I watch. So I decided to watch it. And what happens is immediately the main detective shows up at the house and goes, okay, here's this massacre. And the adult daughter had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, had just gotten out, of a psych ward.
Right.
Murder suicide, because there was a rifle found underneath her chin, obviously, that she killed her parents, killed her kids. And so he just arrives at the scene and goes, this is a murder suicide. The brother, please just be gentle with him. He's lost his entire family. And an underling detective shows up and he goes, listen, I just need you to take care of the brother because this is a tragic event. And he walks in And he looks at Sheila, who's the daughter, the adult daughter, and goes, well, there's 2 bullet holes in her head. And you can't do a murder suicide and suicide yourself twice. And but he's got to fight throughout this whole thing to get this guy, this main detective, to agree that none of the evidence backs up what they said. And I don't want to give away, you're going to figure out pretty quickly who it does, who but you run into this with these true murder shows that I see all the time, that certain detectives just completely ignore evidence. And you wonder why sometimes people don't trust investigations when you see what happens in these true crime stories and they take you through it. The ex-husband of Sheila never believes she did it. Exes will believe the worst things in the world about their exes. And he didn't believe that she could ever, harm her children. So it's, I believe, 6 episodes, maybe went 1 episode too long. I do recommend it just for the person who did it is just pure evil and based on a true story. Here's the crazy part. So the parents who were killed had 2 children. They were both adopted, son and daughter. It turns out the son who was adopted, who's obviously heavily involved in this, his parents who gave him up at birth, because I guess they were young, eventually did get married. And when this whole story broke, they were working under Queen Elizabeth at Buckingham Palace. It's the craziest story. So it's it's a look at pure evil, but it's a look at one detective who just said, I'm not going to let you just say, because this woman was crazy, she murdered her whole family. So I do recommend it there.
Title and network.
It's called The Murders at White House, HBO Max. It did get an 82% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
So
yeah.
2 things I will say about this. Number 1, watch it before it goes away, because David Zaslav just paid Charles Barkley $15 million.
There you go.
You might have to remove it from HBO Max to save a shekel.
Yes.
Number 2, I just listening to this, I know I'd make a terrible TV or cop investigator, because I'm so lazy. I would just be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
It was totally lazy by the main guys. Like, let's wrap this up. Yeah. Boom, we're done. And the guy's going, how did she kill herself twice?
Yeah. Well, listen, this would be me every report. Things happen. I don't know.
Yes.
Jay's official stance. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So Teen TV, what do you got rolling on Teen TV?
Last night, Clark and I watched a movie because Halloween's coming up. So I was flipping around and I saw some previews for Curse of Bridge Hollow on Netflix. Here's the interesting part. It does not get a great rating on Rotten Tomatoes. 46% critic reviews, 56% audience reviews.
Right.
I will tell it's Marlon Wayans stars in it with Kelly Rowan from Destiny's Child. Rob Riggle's in it. He actually has he's a very small role, but he's very funny. He has a line about Santa Claus that Clark and I rewound. We found it so funny. Here's what I will say. It's probably perfect. A perfect movie to introduce 10 to maybe 14-year-old to the concept of a horror movie, because it's not so horror that, the kids are going to be screaming, crying. We jumped a couple of times. It's about a father, a family that moves from Brooklyn to the safest place in the world. A spell happens and all of the Halloween decorations around town come to life. And they have to figure out a spell to get it back in it. A lot of dad jokes, I will say that. Only an hour and 31 minutes. So if you have a 10-year, I would say 9, maybe cutting it, because there are some scary parts, but not super scary. I would go 10 to 14-year-old might be like, oh my God, this is so stupid. Silly, humorous, fun for a Friday night leading up to Halloween.
You know what makes me mad about this pick, Rhea, is as a guy who has pitched TV shows and movies a lot, nothing drives me more nuts than when you have a good 1-sentence pitch that executives, because like the whole goal is to invent something that you can get right away, right?
Yes.
So like for instance, when they pitched Alien, have I ever told you this? The most famous pitch of all time, the Aliens pitch that James Cameron did. So James Cameron walks into Fox, he writes Alien on a chalkboard, waits for a second, then he draws an S. Then he waits for a second and he turns the S into a money sign. And that was his entire pitch,
Wow,
which
there you
is,
go.
remember Alien? Well, I'm going to make aliens and I'm going to make you money. Instantly get it, right? So I just picture whoever produced that movie walking into Disney going, hey, remember Night at the Museum? Well, what if instead of the museum pieces coming to life, it was all the Halloween decorations?
And when they
Done.
were coming to life on people's lawns, the Rob Riggle segment, I will tell you, involves football players and skeletons. And it's hysterical. But I just said, really, like I'm going to say like 10 to 14, really fun. Do it on a Friday night. Turn the lights off, make some popcorn. You'll have a good time.
Love it. All right. And what was the name of that again? One more time. I'm
It's
sorry.
called The Curse of Bridge Hollow.
Curse of Bridge Hollow on Disney.
No,
All
Netflix.
right.
Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah.
I got to pay better attention to everything. That's why I make a terrible cop. All right, Angelo, are you ready to reveal
Not yet.
your 100
Almost.
episode?
Not
Okay.
yet, because I have one other thing I have to talk about. It's you assigned us to watch The Watcher on Netflix, and
Yes.
I am, and it's causing a problem in my marriage. All right. No, I'm not lying. This was awkward. All right. So my wife is watching it with me. She's catching on. In episode 5 of the 7 episodes, I've only seen 5.5. I haven't seen them all yet. I think it was the 5th episode. Bobby Carnival, the main character, is on the bed with Naomi Watts, and she is begging him to take
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
her. And she says, and he stops just as he's getting going. And he says, I got to turn on the alarm system. And then he starts in again, and then he stops the second time. And he said, no, I have to turn on the alarm system. And I screamed with my wife there, she's Naomi Watts. Would you please bleep her? Bleep that woman. And my wife said, what's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? And I said, no, I got swept up in the moment.
Angelo, if a man ever told me he had to set the alarm, I'd be like, see you later. I'm
Yes,
out.
and that's what she
Ridiculous.
did. Rhea.
And she did. And I had so much respect for her.
Yeah, no, I respect her too, but now I don't even like the actor, Bobby Carnival, never mind the character. I don't like either.
Yeah.
So what the hell's wrong with you? That's Naomi Watts. This is your moment.
Yeah. No, my whole opinion there is like, if there is a murderer coming into the house, what a way to go.
Yeah.
You know, like kill me at that moment. Like I'll be fine.
I'm still loving it though. I really do like the
Okay.
show. I like it a lot. Now it may fall apart at the end. Rhea said that she had misgivings toward the end. So far, it's holding up for me. All right, and now
Where you're at, it's great. It's still great.
all right, I will reveal this show because I'm going to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I'm doing this podcast. This show may be the best TV show I've ever seen, and I'll use the high concept approach that Jay was just saying. I'll tell you about the show in one sentence. All right. It's Australian women in prison.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
Did that grab you?
No.
No chance, Rhea. Not a chance.
I will not watch a show in prison.
Now, please understand something. This is originated as a show called Prisoner. And then it was on in the UK. It was huge in Britain, Rhea, in 1980 to 85, called Prisoner in Cell Block H. Right. It also.
I remember that show.
All right. Wentworth is the name of the show. It's on Netflix. It is spectacular. All right. This is how I'm about to do something bizarre here, but I just want you to understand what this show is. This show has the greatest characters I've ever seen, and they constantly evolve. It's in a prison. So they'll get rid of a character by having her finish her sentence. And then they'll realize they missed her and they'll get her arrested and put back in. So you'll see her you'll love her in season 2. All of a sudden she's back in season 5 and you're going, great. But the reason this show is so great is because there is the evil. I like an evil character, and the warden from season 2 to season 4 is the most evil character in the history of television. The main characters in the first few seasons, Jay, they suddenly go away. I won't tell you how. New characters come in, and it's the finales, it's 8 seasons. The finales of practically every season are the most spectacular things you've ever seen. I'll give you one hint. In one finale, they burned the whole prison down. You got to see that. I'm telling you, here's all I'm asking. Watch 3 episodes. Take it, go 3 in. And then I'm giving you, this is my twist today, Jay. I'm giving you my email address. You can email me and tell me whether it hooked you. I did this a few months ago on our radio show, and I got about a dozen people who gushed to me about this is the greatest thing they've ever seen. Oh my God, I'm ignoring my family. I have to keep going with it. And half the people said, you're a psycho. I don't like it.
You got my email then.
It's Wentworth. It's on Netflix, and it is awesome. Awesome. And the binge of it, it's 100 episodes with a spectacular finale. I'm telling you guys, Rhea, it's got accents.
I will give you the 3 episodes.
3 episodes.
I'll give you a simple reason why I don't watch prison movies. It's not a place I ever want to be.
All right, but Rhea, here's the thing. It's really a high school movie. Cliques, it's bullying.
Oh yeah.
It's all the stuff you would see in a high school show, but it's with sometimes very attractive and great characters in Australia. Wentworth, it may be the best television show ever made.
Wow.
Binge,
well, I am
binge it. radioman610@gmail.com. Email me after you've seen the 3 episodes. You can thank me or abuse me, whatever fits.
I'm going to put this out on Twitter as well. I'm going to tell people, I'm not going to give your email away on Twitter, Angelo. I'm going to tell everybody they got to listen to the episode to get your email.
Yes.
And 3 episodes, because I will give it 3 as well. It's good. I'll be in Reno for the rest of the week. So I got literally nothing to do.
It's going to blow your mind, Jay. Hang with it. It just gets better and better. Oh my God. I want to watch it again. I'm looking forward to dementia, so I won't remember it and get this.
Oh my God.
Well, I don't know if there's a better endorsement that I hope my brain stops working so I can enjoy it again. I love it. That's fantastic. Well, guys, thank you so much. Angelo, great recommendation. Rhea, 2 great recommendations. And as always, thank you.
Jay, let me go through it. All right. I'll go. Succession's on HBO Max. Dexter's on Showtime. Murders at the White House, HBO Max. The Watchers on Netflix. The Curse of Bridge Hollow is on Netflix. And The Wentworth is on Netflix. Those are the ones we're telling you to check out today.
I'm going to say, I think this 2nd week in a row, Netflix has won.
Yeah,
better. So, Netflix doing pretty well. Guys, thank you so much. This was a great episode and really a lot of fun to be distracted here in Las Vegas with Talking Good TV. Great work, guys.
Thanks, Jay.
See you, Jay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.